everyone, and welcome to the I Am Remarkable week. I couldn't be happier to be part of this amazing program. It's been an exciting week, and we have another great session for you today. We will start with the Fireside Chat and then have a Q&A at the end, so make sure to be adding your questions throughout the conversation. My name is Joanna, pronouns are she, her, and I lead Google's LGBTQ+ employee resource group in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, representing more than 1,000 Googlers across 25 countries. My day job is to lead a team that gets Google ready for regulations in our trust and safety organization. Today, I am delighted to be speaking with Jessica Kjellgren-Fozard, a truly inspiring creator that is best known for her YouTube channel, on which she talks about her life with disabilities and chronic illness in a positive, uplifting way. Jessica has two rare genetic conditions, HNPP and EDS, which affect her nerves and connective tissues, leading to symptoms including deafness, chronic pain, muscle wastage, paralysis, fatigue, and visual impairment. We have an interpreter with us today, Holly, who will be translating in real time for Jessica. Jessica lives with her wife, Claudia, their newborn son, Rupert, and two adorable fluffy dogs in Brighton. She is a notable figure in the LGBTQ+ community, having been highly commended as a rising star by Diva magazine, listed in the 2021 Guardian Pride Power list, and winner for Online Influencer of the 2021 British LGBT Awards. Wow, that's remarkable. Welcome, Jessica. It's absolutely great having you with us today, and thank you for joining.
Hi, Joanna. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you also for having me at a changed date as well, since we had to make some little adjustments because I had a bit of a health issue last week that's still ongoing, but we've managed to turn things around. And also now I'm wearing clothes for the first time in a week and a half, which is absolutely lovely.
No, absolutely. Thank you for making it despite actually being feeling that way. So really, really appreciate you making the effort. Okay, so let's start with what makes you remarkable, which is what brings us here today. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Sure. So I was born with two different genetic disabilities. I actually get one from each parent, although at birth, no one knew this. My parents weren't diagnosed with their condition. They didn't know that they carried these genes. No one, in fact, knew this until the age of 17, when I was diagnosed after paralyzing both of my arms during an exam. Which sounds very, I realize, sounds very remarkable. And you're like, my goodness, how could this not have come up earlier? But I have a condition that means the nerves in my body, the protective coating around them has holes in it. And this means that the nerves themselves, they don't have the protection, and should they be put under any kind of pressure, they can either fray, which means that they're obviously damaged long term, which is unfortunately what happened with things like my eye. So I can't see out of my left eye because the vision is damaged. The nerve there doesn't work anymore because the hole that protects that section didn't work. Or the nerve can swell through the gap in the protective coating, and that can paralyze the nerve further down, which can be for any length of time. So I live with the kind of uncertainty of facing paralysis to any degree for any length of time, and it can come back to any degree, and I don't know when that might be. So a week and a half ago, for instance, I was unpacking a food delivery from a grocery shop, putting it from the crates into the bags, and I didn't stand up enough while I was doing it, injured my back. And in injuring my back, my nerves decided to paralyze my legs. So that's why I've spent the last week and a half in bed, and I'm currently in a motorized wheelchair propped up with a lot of pillows. So that's how that nervous system works. But as a child, no one knew this about me. So I come to school and be like, my hand just doesn't work today. It's really floppy and I can't make it work. And my teachers would be like, no, you're just being ridiculous. That doesn't happen. No 5-year-old has a hand that just randomly doesn't work. You're just faking. You're making it up. And I'm like, I'm really not. This is very inconvenient for me. You think it's annoying for you. I mean, I'm 5. I want to go out and play. I have a floppy hand. It's bothering me more than you. Come on here. Like, I'm not faking this. This is annoying. So I was constantly dealing with things like this. I was constantly injuring myself. I was dislocating fingers. I was having just things where I'm like, I can't feel my shins, for instance, because when I crawled on them as a baby, that stopped them from being able to feel. And growing up, I thought this was completely normal until the age of 17 when I got diagnosed and they mapped my skin and were like, let's find out which bits of your skin you can actually feel and which bits you can't. And they were like, you can't feel your shins. And I was like, people can feel shins? That's a thing? Shins have feeling? My God, what? This is crazy. Oh, my goodness, shocking. So there's the nerve condition aspect, and then there's the connective tissue disorder as well, which makes the nerve condition worse. So it's much worse than it would be if I just had the nerve issue. If I just had the nerve issue, I'd probably have just like numb fingers occasionally. But unfortunately, with the muscle condition, I dislocate a lot, and therefore the dislocation a lot means that the nerve issue is worse. And it also affects my internal organs. So I have a thing called Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia syndrome, which is really fun to say. So if I say my full, if anyone's really ever nosy, I get this thing a lot because of the way I dress. I'm kind of like, here I am in my pretty frilly pink summer dress coming out of the disabled toilets, and maybe I'm not using a mobility aid that's super visual. So I'm just like flouncing out, and there's some busybody out there like, excuse me, that's the disabled toilet. It's only for disabled people. And I like to just pull this out of my back pocket and go, well, actually, I have hereditary neuropathy with liability to pressure palsy and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So I am disabled because it just sounds excellent, doesn't it? It's brilliant. It's just a lot of words. It's wonderful to say.
I'm sure.
But yeah,
I'm sure nobody says
coping with all this. Sorry.
Yeah, I was saying, I'm sure nobody says anything after that. Yeah. Okay, so with that, actually, it helps us going to the next question, which is, how has your deafness, your disabilities in general, maybe even your identity, if you want to touch on that point, shape you and shape who you are today? So you told us a bit about the background, and I would love to understand how does that impact your life nowadays?
Yeah, so growing up, I was kind of in this very odd position of knowing things about myself, but constantly being told that I was wrong and that I was incorrect, even though they were things that I innately knew about myself. So I knew that there was something wrong with my body. I knew it was different to other people's. I knew that I couldn't run like other children could, that I was injured a lot more than them. I knew that I liked girls. I mean, I knew that when all my friends were like, oh my God, that boy, isn't he amazing? Oh my God, I love him. And I was like, no, absolutely not. No. But have you seen Rogue from the X-Men? I die. Isn't she beautiful? And my friends were like, no. No. So I knew I was gay. I knew that was a thing. I was like, yeah, that's me. I've decided, yeah, completely. And people from the outside were like, you can't know this about yourself. You're too young. You're too young. That's not possible. But I was really, really sure about myself. And I think it just gave me a lot of confidence in a lot of other ways. And it's a funny kind of misconception almost, because it could have made me feel very very bad about myself. And I almost went two ways. There was the thinking of, I am alone in this. There is no one else out there like me, because I didn't see anyone else out there like me. I desperately wanted to be a Blue Peter presenter growing up, which, if you don't know, is a kids' TV show in England that the presenters are amazing. They get to do all this fun stuff, like dress up in historical costumes, and they make cool little art projects that always somehow involve the inner tube of a toilet paper roll, and have lots of fun doing that. And they interview fun people like elephants for some reason. Why not? And they'll go and visit some interesting old castle. And for some reason, they also then go and jump out of a plane or go and hike up a mountain. And my dream was always to be a presenter on this program. And I was like, yes, all of these things I know that I can do, except for I don't think I can hike up a mountain. I don't think my body will allow that to happen. And therefore, does that mean I can't be a Blue Peter presenter? And I would look around on television and see these people having such fun, having such a good time, and want desperately to be like them, but think, I don't think I can, because I haven't seen anyone else who's like me. And even nowadays, there's this statistic that only 0.06% of people we see in adverts on UK television have a disability. And yet a fifth of the population has disability.
That's crazy. And
how it's completely unsurprising, right? That you'd think, how on earth could I ever be on TV? How could I ever share my story? How could I ever, I have, work in the media, do these fun things?
And that's where YouTube comes in, right? Because, I mean, you have, I think, almost 900,000 subscribers, more than 76 million views. Yes, I checked yesterday. That's impressive.
Yeah, round me up. Go on.
Yeah, but it's quite remarkable. Like, how did it all start, and how did you even think about YouTube as an alternative? Because, to your point, mainstream would have been hard, and so I would love to understand how that clicked for you.
Sure. So again, growing up, this was the thing I really wanted to do, and I felt like it was absolutely impossible, and I just couldn't do it. But again, I'm a really determined person, and I think it comes from that childhood of being told no, and about things that I knew were absolutely 100% correct about myself. From having to go to school and being told, I went to a Church of England primary school, and they were quite keen on telling us about when we were older and had husbands. And I was like, I think you'll find, no, when I'm older and have a wife, which, by the way, is still like very traditional of me. But here we are. I do have a wife. We do have a child. So did go down a very traditional pathway. Slightly, off center, but still very traditional. And I was very determined, and decided that this was what I was going to do, even though I knew it was going to be quite hard. And I have a lot of family who work in media, in the kind of film and TV areas, but none of them were, to be fair, that supportive of the idea of me doing it, because they knew how hard it was. And they all said, well, you've got to kind of start from the bottom up. You start as a runner, and it's really difficult. You start from the intern, and you're getting people coffee and running around, and it's the tough jobs that you're up till midnight. And Jessica, you fall over after standing up for half an hour. This probably isn't the thing for you. It's not really going to end well. And when I injured my arms at 17, I say injured. So I was sitting in an exam and I leant on my arm for 20 minutes whilst I was writing. And in doing that, I got a crick in my neck. I'd also been on crutches for 6 months, a few months prior to this, which had made the muscles in my neck just kind of a bit unstable. And then the leaning on my arm during this exam was, I guess, the straw that broke the camel's back, kind of literally. And by that evening, my hand had started to go numb. The numbness had spread all the way up my arm. I woke up the next morning, my arm was completely paralyzed all the way up to the shoulder. Being a teenager, I thought it was quite funny for some reason, because I didn't know that there was anything wrong with me, and I thought that this would just get better in a few hours. You know, what a funny dead arm that I'd apparently slept on. My friend came over. We lined up a number of items for me to attempt to pick up and then drop. My mother was not pleased that we were doing this on her kitchen table, dropping like buckets of sugar everywhere. But hey, you teenagers are going to teenage, I guess. We did it with raisins as well. The dog was there. Like, this is great, guys. Keep going. You know, why not? Drop everything. Drop those biscuits. Go for it. Yes. And then the next morning, my other arm wasn't working either. We were like, oh, might be time to go to hospital. Gosh. And at hospital, I did a whole barrage of tests thinking that this was going to be meningitis, a brain tumor, could be any kind of very disturbing thing, and actually found that it was this genetic thing I have, hereditary neuropathy, liability to pressure palsies, and told me that it would probably, my arms would come back, but they didn't know when it would be. And it was 1.5 years until they did. But during that time, obviously I was having exams. I got told I wouldn't be able to do my exams because I couldn't write. I wouldn't be able to continue to take my classes. My entire school education was completely messed up. I'd also had a test in the hospital when they were checking to see whether I had a brain tumor or anything, a lumbar puncture that takes the fluid from your spine. And it unfortunately went wrong. And they'd tried to take a tiny bit of spinal fluid using a needle in my spine. And so sorry, I should give a needle warning before I talk about needles. God, I always do that. I'm like, here's a warning, but afterwards, sorry. And unfortunately, what happened was the spinal fluid leaked out through the hole, because it's supposed to close up as soon as the needle comes out. But unfortunately, it didn't, and it bled out. And my father took me home because it was a Friday when I'd had it done. And I'd been in hospital for a few weeks, and I've been going home every weekend. And I'd had this test done on a Friday, and he took me home for the weekend. And unfortunately, by the time I got back to hospital on Monday, most of my spinal fluid had bled out, and it hadn't been picked up on that I'd been getting progressively iller and iller and iller, and wasn't able to lift my head. And because I lost so much spinal fluid, I essentially wasn't able to sit upright at all without dehydrating my brain, which is incredibly dangerous because it can kill you. Wow. And I suffered some brain damage from the dehydration in my brain. And so every time I did sit up, I would just kind of vomit, pass out, slump back. And I had to spend a long time, it was 2 years all in all, on bed rest, lying down. I also had to be in a dark room because any light hurt me. I couldn't have sound because the tiniest sound hurt me. Fortunately, I was at this point losing my hearing, so that was good. that was working in my favor, fortunately. Even touch, the tiniest, I remember being in my hospital bed and someone pressing gently their fingertips to the end of this hospital bed, and it sent shockwaves of pain through my head. And just the extreme pain that I was in for about 2 years with this was exceptional. It was definitely the worst, the hardest time in my life. And as I was going through it, I was just thinking, like, is this it? Is my life over at the age of 17? This feels a little premature. I feel like there's perhaps more I should have done with my life here. I think I've got more to do. I think I've got more to say. You know, definitely other things I'd like to try in the world. You know, Blue Peter, call me. And I kept myself entertained by creating little television shows in my head. I would play myself episodes every week. Like, I spaced them out. So I was very harsh with myself. So I'd play one episode on a Monday and I'd be like, oh, gotta wait till next Monday for the next episode. Because I couldn't watch actual TV because that hurt too much, but I could play TV in my brain. So I've got to make it up as we go along. So I did that instead. So I just made up this like little life that I was going to have in the future and what it was going to look like. And I just remember thinking, like, I can't be alone. I can't be the only person who's going through this. I can't be the only person who's living a life like this. I didn't know anyone else who was disabled. I didn't know anyone else who was living in a similar way to me. And I just kept thinking, like, if I get through this, if I get to the other end, I've kind of got to turn around and help other people and pull them through it too. Because I didn't see anything, I didn't get any media of how I could get through this. And people would give me books, like, you know, special stories of people who became disabled. And they're all like super worthy. And they were awful. They were terrible. My God. There was like, oh God, some girl who'd like got some virus and then she became disabled, and oh, tragedy. Oh God, oh goodness. But a boy still went to a dance with her. He was so sweet. Oh, he held her hand. Like, oh, Jesus Christ. He held her hand. That's all she gets now. She's in a wheelchair. She gets a boy that holds her hand. Delightful. So this is rubbish. Absolutely atrocious. I'm not having this. So I decided I was going to create something new. If I got through this, I was going to get to the other side. I was going to create something new, something representational, something that people could actually be inspiring to actual disabled people, not something inspiring for non-disabled people that's supposed to make non-disabled people feel good about their lives, something for people who are struggling. And granted, it doesn't have to be people who are struggling with a disabled or disability-related thing. It could just be people who are struggling with something else, but just something that's there to say, like, yeah, life is hard, but also there can be so much fun in it. There can be so much beauty within that struggle. So yeah, I got through that bed rest, thank goodness. And I was like, I'm going to make it through. I'm going to get through this. And I decided to try out university. That was hard. I was like, I'm going to do this. Maybe this will help me skip that whole runner job in the film industry. And then through that, I started my university's first ever television society. It was like an online TV society where I made little videos. So I taught myself to video edit, and I did like the presenting and the editing and came up with the stories, and basically just made YouTube videos, but on the university's platform. and was like, yeah, this is really fun. My God, this is amazing. And then through that, got headhunted by a local TV station who were like, hey, come work for us. It'll be really great. We're not going to pay you, but it'll be really great. You'll be working for us. We'll totally take your money, but it'll be really great. Do it. Yeah. So we went to go and work for them, and I found that it was not the easiest thing to work for someone else when you have a body that doesn't work for you. It just does its own thing. Because I can't control my body myself. So how on earth am I going to control it around someone else's schedule? Yeah. Doesn't necessarily do that. And if they tell me that I can only film on Wednesdays between 9 and 11, I can't promise that my body is going to be capable of doing that on Wednesdays between 9 and 11. However, when I had the freedom before and I was doing my own videos, I could film whenever my body felt like filming. And I could edit, when I had to be lying down, because I can edit on my laptop and it's just on my lap. And I could come up with creative ideas whenever I felt like I could. And that flexibility was amazing. I just started running myself into the ground and getting kind of iller and iller and iller and iller. And at this point, this is the up point in the story. Don't worry, we've got there. I had just met my amazing fiance, who had just become my wife. And she was like, hey, tell you what, we just got married. How about I just give you 6 months and fully support you, and you just don't do that job anymore and become a YouTuber. And I give you 6 months. You just try this YouTube thing, see how it goes, work around your body, your schedule, and if it works out for you, great. And if it doesn't, we'll see. And fortunately, it did. And we've never discussed the alternative. She's never told me what I would have had to do if it hadn't worked out.
That's impressive. I mean, it's so inspiring just to hear your story. Thank you for sharing. And I hope others understand the options they have and the flexibility. Sometimes it's not hard. It's not easy, though. It's hard. So I guess this is I Am Remarkable Week, and we are reflecting about how we can challenge modesty norms, how we can boost people's confidence. And you're certainly the epitome of confidence. So what's one piece of advice that you would give people in the audience to boost their confidence today?
I think the best piece of advice when it comes to confidence is just that you know yourself. Even if you feel like you don't, you do. You know yourself better than anyone else does. So, even if you feel like you've got to take a moment, you've got to think about yourself. You know what you need, you know what you like. So if someone is trying to work you to do something that you don't want to do, if they're trying to make you agree to something, if it doesn't feel right for you, don't. And you can always adapt things in a way that does work for you. And you'd be actually really surprised how flexible people can be if you're just open and honest about what does work for you. I think it's truly great how amazingly open people can be once we start opening up to each other. I think once we have the confidence to kind of bare our souls a little bit with other people, people are willing to bare their own souls with us as well.
I absolutely agree with you. And who in your life has inspired you to be this way, or to have that awareness of yourself and then confidence in yourself? Who or what? Maybe it was a situation or a community or a person. It doesn't have to be just a person.
Oh, I think the most inspiring person in my life was my grandmother, who was a children's nurse in Boston at the outbreak of the Second World War, and decided that she was going to sign up to become a nurse in the army, and came over and then met my grandfather across an operating room table. He was a surgeon with the British Army. He was actually Swedish, but he was a surgeon with the British Army. And they met across an operating room theatre table on some kind of battlefield in the middle of France. And she was like, hey, you seem absolutely amazing. You also appear dedicated to saving people's lives. He was like, yes, I am. I am dedicated to saving people's lives, making the world a better place. She was like, fabulous. Me too. Do you want to get married? And he was like, yeah, let's. And 3 weeks to the day they met, they went ahead and did that in the middle of a war, despite the fact it was actually illegal for American service women to get married. So they did it in secret, illegally, in the middle of a war, and then didn't see each other for years because, again, there was a war going on and they were actually in different armies, got posted to different places. And just like she's fabulous, by God. So she got posted all around Europe, was just busy, you know, saving people's lives. And one day I was patching someone up, and he said, "Oh, nurse, you're so amazing. You're so gentle. You're so wonderful. Tell me your name. Tell me your name, please, please. I know I'm dying. I just want to know the name of this wonderful nurse who's saving my life." And so she decided to give him her married name rather than the actual name that she should have given him, which was her, you know, her American name. So she was like, "Oh, I'm Nurse Calgren," and he was like, "It's so funny. I just saw a Dr. Calgren." She was like, "You did? Where? That's my husband. I haven't seen him in years. Where is he?" And so he told her, and she was like, "Well, I'm off. Let's go." And told her commanding officer, I was like, "Look, I should have told you this before, but I got married 2 years ago. And yeah, I know it was illegal, but it's legal now. And I know it was secret, but I've got to go find my husband. Can I go?" So she got in the back of a lorry, got smuggled across occupied Europe, found my grandfather. They were reunited, celebrated together the end of the war as that happened, came to England together, had a lot of children, and were together for 60 years. And she just completely made this entirely new life because she just was like, yeah, I'm dedicating my life to service of people and saving lives. And she created this family that so many of my family have gone into medicine and just care greatly about saving people, making the world a better place. And just been really inspired by her and by my grandfather as well. But they were just amazing, inspirational people who just thought that while we're here, it's our kind of job, our duty to help as many people as we can, I suppose.
I guess you do it now with your own means, and it's incredible to see how YouTube and other social networks also, you know, hopefully help you get the message through. What are some of the most inspiring, you know, experiences you have gotten from getting yourself out there? Because essentially you're exposing your own vulnerabilities. How does that bring out the best or not in people that you interact with?
Yeah, I think so often we hear about how social media as a whole, the internet, is a negative thing. Like that's a topic of discussion that comes up very often. And I think it's always from people who aren't seeing just how amazingly, wonderfully representative and diverse new media is compared to old media. Like if we're looking at YouTube, if we're looking at YouTube's top creators in terms of who people really love and cherish and who's sort of risen up there. It's, you know, it's amazing. It's people who wouldn't really have had a chance if they were being on the kind of more gatekeeping old media like film and television. And that's really beautiful and that's really wonderful to see. And I always say to people when they ask me about creating a YouTube channel, they're always like, I don't think there's anyone would be interested in me. Like, I really want to make a YouTube channel. I really want to share my passion, but I don't think that there's anyone who would care. I'm like, I thought that there wouldn't be anyone who would be kind of interested in the intersection, the niche of disability and LGBTQ+. I was like, that's a tiny niche when I started my YouTube channel. And then come to find out down the road, 1/3 of people who identify as LGBTQ+ have a disability, and 1/5 of the population as a whole have a disability or chronic illness. Like, it's a massive, massive part of the population. It's actually the largest minority of people who have disabilities. Like, it's hugely underserved, and it's just wonderful that nowadays we are seeing people across social media platforms, and especially across places like YouTube, which I think YouTube is wonderful because it allows us to really form the connections that we're seeing, that we wouldn't really be getting on television, because we're actually able to, you know, leave a comment and inspire our creators to make a video responding to something that we've asked them to talk about, that really connects to us as an audience. We're essentially commissioning the television we want to see, rather than just being fed what from the top down they think we should watch. And that's amazing. And then on the other hand, I also just love looking in my comments and seeing people that I know have been watching my videos for years and years and years and have made really strong, really passionate friendships, and even some relationships. I mean, I'm not going to take full credit. I just put them together. I didn't light the romantic spark, but you know, I got them in the same room. So
that is incredible. That is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I just love things like that. Absolutely love to see it.
And how do you keep the creativity up? It's crazy how you continue to just, you know, create new videos, and all of them are more inspiring than the other.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, people that's a really people love asking that question. How do you get ideas for videos? I have an issue with that, actually, in that I have too many ideas. I use Google Calendar, which is my favorite resource ever. So props to the creator of Google Calendar. I use it as my daily to-do list calendar tool. It's not just, Google Calendar is not just to be used as a calendar, guys. You should also use it as your to-do list. It's really excellent for that. So I have different slices within my calendar, which are for like filming, writing, editing, to do, what to do today, all of that. It's all in there. It's perfect. And I also have one that is just videos, and then I can easily drag and drop them around. So whenever I have a new video idea, I just create a new calendar thing for it, and I'll put the video idea as the name of the event, and then in the notes, I'll just write down what I think the video is going to be about. And I might be inspired after a conversation with a friend, might be from an article I read, might be from another video that I watched, an Instagram post, might just be randomly from a walk. Ideas, they come to me a lot. I think I've got 200 at the moment, just sat in that Google Calendar that I have to keep dragging down as we approach the day.
Well, that's great. That's great because we realize that you need the pipeline for us to continue to be able to watch you. So I'm glad you have 200 plus, and I hope the pipeline doesn't go dry anytime soon. Okay, so let's give the audience the chance to ask some questions as well. We have a question from Ines Cavaco. What are the best ways that those in the LGBTQ plus community can support each other?
Great question. Really good question. I think the best way that we can support each other as a community is being vocal and educating ourselves on the parts of the community that we are not part of. So I have a series on my channel that does historical profiles. So I'll look at different people through history who were part of either the LGBTQ plus community or had a disability, kind of just covering the people that we didn't talk about in history class, or the people that we did talk about in history class, but the parts of their lives that we didn't talk about. That type of thing. And one thing that I'm really trying to do with that is also inject and therefore learn more about the parts of the LGBTQ plus acronym that I'm not a part of, and therefore learn more about and spread awareness of and show support for. Because I think it's really important just to be vocal, not just on like day of. So, you know, if it's Bisexual Awareness Day, it's great to be like, yeah, it's Bisexual Awareness Day. Woo, let's post that flag. But what about every other day of the year, you know? Let's talk about bisexual pride. Let's talk about bisexuals on other days. Let's support them every other day of the year as well. So just being vocal and supportive and making sure that we have got all of the knowledge up here, that we've got all the education, so that when we are in a position where someone else starts spouting something and we're like, that's misinformation right there. No. Let me come and hit you with a correct fact. That's wrong. That's the stuff that we need. We need people who've got their facts right. We need people who can stand up and say the right thing. Or it's also totally okay if you don't feel all right in that situation. If you're putting yourself at harm, please don't put yourself at harm. To stand up for something. But also, go ahead and do it online. Go for it. Go for it.
I really, really like that, because essentially the way for us to support each other is to actually educate ourselves first and then support others better. I really like that. So second question of the day, question from Monica. First things first, I love your channel. It brought me so much joy during this pandemic. You talked about the flexibility YouTube gives you to work when your body is able to work. How do you give yourself permission to rest and take care of yourself when you need to? The culture of busy and productivity is so hard to escape.
Oh, this is a great question. Wow. Yes, I will admit my personality isn't great at resting. As you can tell, here I am, propped up with my pillows. I don't tend to enjoy doing nothing. I like to be doing something. That's how I rest. So I discovered it. I found it under a rock. The Sims 4. Excellent, an excellent game. Fabulous. That is how I rest. So for those of you who don't know, The Sims 4 is a life simulator where you can make little people do things, be productive for you. So I lie down and rest my body and essentially rest myself, regain my spoons by making a little pixelated version of myself do things. I mean, I should see a therapist about that. I realise that it's not probably very healthy. Now I'm saying it out loud, it sounds terrible. But yes, find a thing that you can do that makes you feel, if you're one of those people that needs to feel like you're doing something, makes you feel like you're doing something. Maybe it's threading beads, maybe it's colouring in, maybe it's embroidery, something that's a very small, very calm activity. So you are actually resting as much as you are physically able to rest, but you're still just doing it just a little bit at a time, little thing. And then at the end of it, you're like, look, a thing. I was productive, but you weren't really, you were resting. Shh.
That's fascinating. I don't think I have played Sims in like 10 years now, but I do play other games, so I can see how that could be a very interesting one to go back to. Question from Alessandra. Jessica, love your story, love your resilience. I know film and TV as an industry are challenging to break into, to say the least. It's so great to see how you managed to make it your own path. If you wouldn't have found your path in YouTube and content creation, what else would you have loved to do? I guess this is the plan B from before.
Well, obviously be a Blue Peter presenter. Obviously. But if they wouldn't have had me, the other thing that I would really love to do, and would still love to do actually, and hopefully will get to do at some point, is write books. I really would love to write books for children, both the kind of under sixes, but also young adults. I want to write a book series about our dogs and how they like live in a little family, and it has 2 mums, and also like include some disability in there, and just make books that are, I think, because when I became disabled and I got given these like books about disability, and they were so depressing and awful, and very much that kind of book of the week vibe, where it's just about this one issue and there's just no joy in it. There's no happiness. It's just to make people who do not have disabilities understand disabled people. But there's nothing about how you can be disabled but also have fun. You can be disabled but also have love in your life. You can be disabled but also do whatever you want to do with your life. Those are the books that I'd like to write. Just the idea that you can live your life and be happy. That's what I'm going to write.
I cannot wait for those books to come out. And in that context of the books, there's a question from Mariana. Thank you, Jessica, for being such an inspiration and sharing your story. As a fellow mom, I would like to know how best you are planning to educate Rupert on disabilities. Any recommendations for me to talk to my daughters about this, and maybe any other books that are more inspirational and positive than the ones we traditionally would have?
Yeah. Okay. Oh wait, sorry. Can you repeat that question? Are we on question 1?
I will say again, I will also repeat that you're an inspiration and thank you for sharing your story. But as a fellow mom, I would like to know how best you are planning to educate Rupert on disabilities, and any recommendations for me to talk to my daughters about it.
Oh, sorry. I think I got too deep into thinking about my answer there. And then I was like, Right. Yeah. So first thing is that I have a lot of friends who have disabilities. So that's obviously one way that Rupert's life will be opened to disabilities, is that there will be people in his life around him who have disabilities, and we're going to be very open and discuss those with him. I think that one thing I found quite difficult growing up was that people tended to assume that I understood things because they had just been in my life the whole time. And I think this happens with children a lot. Like the way that people assume you understand the relationships between people because they've always been there. So obviously you understand which cousin belongs to which aunt because you've always known them, right? And I was like, well, no, I don't. I have 7 aunts and I have 19 cousins. How the hell am I supposed to remember which goes with which? Like, I don't know. Like, also, they all look quite similar, to be honest. Like, I needed a refresher course occasionally. So Claudia and I were talking about this, and we thought that with him, we can't just think that he is going to, by the process of osmosis, somehow understand everything we know. We can't just think, oh, it's okay, because we have this level of understanding ourselves about LGBTQ plus history, because we have this level of understanding about disabilities, what we should say, the correct way to address people, things, the correct way you should talk about mobility aids, that we should just think that, yes, he'll definitely understand how to talk about that. We shouldn't say that. We shouldn't think that. What we should be doing is having open and honest discussions and conversations with him about them. Now, currently he's only 3 months old. But yeah, I have actually had a conversation with him about why I'm lying in bed right now and why I'm not able to help him as much as I normally would do. And I've said, I'm really sorry. I wish I could be doing you a nappy change for you right now, but I can't because unfortunately I've injured my back and that led to some semi-paralysis. Now, semi-paralysis means...
Yeah.
Because yes, I know he's 3 months old, but hey, why not? Maybe it'll sink in.
Starting early is important. So why not? Why not start early in that area as well? We have a bit more than 5 minutes and many questions. So for the final ones, what I will do is we'll go through them fast so that we can tackle all of them, hopefully. So question from Lauren Jones. I'd love to find more disabled creators as it's such a so underrepresented in traditional media. Can you or anyone recommend any disabled creators?
Yes. Okay. That is an excellent question. Let's just throw some good ones out there. Although, sorry, this isn't going to be a highly curated good list because I'm throwing them out there. People who are amazing. Little Pine Needle, who makes wonderful garments. Really love, talks about different sewing techniques on YouTube. Really interesting. Is currently making a bra on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, I'm intrigued. I've never thought of hand sewing my own bra before. And now I'm like, wow. Also uses a mobility aid, has some really cool videos about that. Annie Elaney, really excellent. I think is Annie Sagara on Instagram, might be wrong, but I think it's Annie Elaney on YouTube. Does some really amazing work in the Latinx side of YouTube, as well as disability YouTube, and also LGBTQ plus YouTube. Brilliant. Stevie Bobby, who has just started talking more about her ADHD which she was diagnosed with as a really small child, actually at the age of 2, but hasn't talked about openly online since recently. So that's really interesting, and is talking more about her diagnosis. That's great. Oh my God, I don't want to use up all the time talking about amazing people, but yeah, check those 3 out. God, I should do I'll do a follow post on Instagram. I should do that.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea for others to also access folks with disability. Question from Mikael. Hey, Jessica, you once said in your video about Quakerism that you avoid arguing with people. So I would just want to know how you are able to avoid getting angry when people disagree or disregard things like your sexual identity or in general disrespect your opinion.
Yeah. It's true. I do indeed avoid arguing with people. I never argue with people because I feel that it brings nothing to any situation to get angry. I'm of the mindset that a negative emotion brings nothing but negativity to myself, and doesn't ever win me anything. So if I'm trying to have a reasoned debate, I know I hate the idea that we have to be rational and calm and so nice. Oh God, ladylike to ever win a discussion with someone. But unfortunately, that's kind of how the world works. So I don't ever raise my voice or tell someone that their opinion is stupid, because that's not going to help anything. However, I try very hard to dismantle their argument and very politely and helpfully show them where they may be possibly incorrect. Because from past experience, I've learned that people really only change their mind when they feel like they're changing their own mind. Unfortunate. You can show people videos, which I think is a really great way. People like to watch videos and then feel like they found the video and then it changed their mind. Not that the video changed their mind, but that they were able to change their own mind from the inside. Not that you did it by sending it to them. They did it themselves. I think it's always very useful just to know that you can do it that way. Send them lots of articles and then they can make up their own mind.
Why not win an argument through deconstructing the other side? I think that's, if the world were to follow your advice, we would have certainly way less conflict. Just saying, maybe listen to Jessica.
It would take forever though, just to be clear. It takes forever.
True, that's true. But we could at least start. We don't have more time, but Jessica, it has been a true honor speaking with you today. Big thank you for taking the time and for sharing with us your incredible journey. And to everyone in the audience, I hope you felt as inspired as I did. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.